The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into a Wednesday episode of Running Point on YSNLive.com. As always, brought to you by our good friends above our heads at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. It is Wednesday, which means it is time for Scotty Mitchell to be with us. Scotty, how we doing today, buddy?
I'm good, Anthony. Rare and ready to go. Can't believe this streak of nice days we've had.
It's almost to the point when like gardeners and farmers are just begging for rain, which they almost never do in Northeast Ohio. But we're in like a kind of little drought. I think we've had like the lowest average rainfall in the month of May in like a X amount of years. It's been ridiculous, So I love it. Baseball and softball fans love it, but the people that need the rain probably don't love it right now.
Yeah. I love it too. But as you said, other people they don't love it. But it is great sports wise.
Great sports wise. Scotty, how are you enjoying the sunny days the last couple of days? What have you been doing? What have you been up to?
Yeah. So I've been hanging out, just outside cruising a little while. The other night we actually went to a car show down in Lowville, so that was a lot of fun. I'm no car expert, but it was just cool looking at all the old-fashioned cars and stuff like that.
Scotty's out here rolling.
Yeah,
rolling in the dough with the classic cars. Scotty, you know what else has been going on? It's Class B baseball at Bob's Theme Park. We're going to recap the 16U action that went on last night. I'm going to bring up the Youngstown Class B website up on your screen so you can see what we're looking at here. First game on tap last night was Avalanche and Prospects. Let's take a look at this box score that went down between these two. And Avalanche, Scotty, man, they are rightfully named because they bulldozed an Avalanche all the way down Prospects. 12-1, they get the win. Look at this. 3 runs in the second, 1 run in the third, 2 runs in the fourth, 2 runs in the fifth, 4 runs in the sixth. And you do the math, that equals 12 runs total. They win 12-1. Big bats on the Avalanche's side. 3 RBI day on a hitless day, which is something you don't normally see, Scotty. But, hey, whatever you can do to get 3 RBIs, I say go ahead and do it. And that came from Blake Rodman there. Pair of RBIs for Nick Solderich. He went 2 for 3 on the day. And then you go down the box score a little bit, another 2 RBI day and a perfect day at the plate from Grayson Eicher, going 1 for 1 with 2 walks and a pair of RBIs. A couple other RBIs spread out through the lineup, but a big offensive day for the Avalanche. And they also pitched pretty well as well. It was the win given to Landon Whitbo, which is a great name. 4 1/3 innings pitched, 1 earned run, giving up 4 hits, and he walked 3, struck out 2, using 60 pitches to get through those 4 1/3 innings. Not a good day at the plate for Prospects, unfortunately. Just 1 run scored. The RBI came from Will Carrillo, who went 1 for 2. on the day, and they only were able to scatter 5 hits against the Avalanche pitching staff. So that's how the first game looked, Scotty. Big win for the Avalanche 16U division.
Yeah, dominant there. Um, yeah, I mean, to have an offense that efficient, you know, not even have 12 hits, but have 12 runs on just 10 hits. That's really saying a lot. And their pitching, as you said, got the job done as well last night.
It sure did. Next game on tap was on scene one, the big stage, and it was Ballistic and Athletics, and the big stage was a big night for these two teams. 5-4. Ballistic Baseball gets the win, and they hold off an Athletics rally. They scored 3 runs in the 6th to make it 5-4, but Ballistic held them there and hold on to that 1-run victory. 5-4, the final score. Ballistic Baseball, their big bats, they were coming from a multitude of people, as you see 3 different hitters get RBIs. It was Johnny Reyes and Cameron Huff, both with RBIs on a 1-for-3 day, and then also 1-for-3 for Tyler Wright, and 2 runs scored for him as well. A perfect day at the plate, no RBIs, but a perfect day nonetheless for Gabe Rusnak, as he went 3-for-3. Pitching wise, it was Owen Gazda. They got the win. He went 4 innings, gave up no earned runs, 4 hits, struck out a pair, and walked 3. For the Athletics, they had 2 RBIs from Zach Ward, going 1-for-3 on the day. Also an RBI from Caden Clare and an RBI from Kyler Bourne, and he went 3-for-3, so a perfect day at the plate for him, despite the loss. Pretty good baseball game here, Scotty. A comeback attempt by the Athletics, scoring 3 runs in the 6th, but then the Ballistic Baseball crew does a good job holding down the fort and holding on to their 5-4 victory.
Yeah, it's a good win, and as you said, good game. Very much even. Could have went either way. Both teams with 7 hits. Uh, in the game. I think that Ballistic Baseball, they just did a good job of putting a stop to Athletics rally, limiting the damage, but very evenly matched game that could have went either way. And that's the beauty of baseball. There's
That's
going
the
to be nights where you come on top and you win by a run, things are clicking. There's also going to be nights where you lose by a run, but you could always build off it. And the beauty of baseball is there's always tomorrow. So
It's always tomorrow, and which was actually today because these were yesterday's. So today is yesterday's tomorrow, as they say. So there's always today, I guess you could say. 4 runs in the first inning set the tone for Ballistic Baseball. That's impressive, Scotty, to come in, set the tone, get up 5-1 eventually. And then also impressive by Athletics, even though they're not going to win this game, but to be down 5-1 with just 6 outs remaining and to score 3 runs and make it, give yourself a chance in the 7th. Pretty remarkable by both teams on that. I think the 4 errors from Athletics are going to be something that they probably look back on and try to clean up going forward. They'll be back in action on Thursday when 16U hits the field again. What a game for Field 1, though. The big stadium with the big game of the night. We'll go back into the rest of the scores. Creekside and Whiting next on tap. And Creekside trying to get a big win. And they sure did. 6-2 over Whiting is the final score. 10-8 Creekside out hits the Whiting roll off, and it was 4 runs in the 6th and 1 run in the 7th that really did him in. Whiting held a 1-0 lead for the first 2 innings, and then you see Creekside tying it up in the 3rd, and then taking that 4 runs in the 6th and 1 run in the 7th to run away with it. Creekside big bats. Let's see who they got. 1 RBI apiece from the trio of Trent Littman, Sam Landis and Hunter Shields, all with one RBI, all on a one for at least a one hit day. Landis went 1 for 1 with a run scored. We have two RBIs down there at the bottom from Dane Barber, 2 for 3 day for him. And it looks like he was the only hitter on the team with multiple hits. So big day for Dane. It's a great Dane right there, Scotty.
Yeah, that is a great name. Pun intended.
Hunter I hope I'm saying this right. Kobialka. He got the win in this day for Creekside. 7 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, just 8 hits given up, struck out 4, walked 2 on the day. Creekside also drew, 3 walks and only struck out 6 times. So 6-3 is their walk to strikeout ratio. Look at Whiting's runs. They were scored with a Joey Campoli RBI. He was 0 for 2, but he managed to walk and draw the RBI there. And then an RBI from Christian Antaruk. That's a cool name. He was also hitless, though, 0 for 3 with an RBI. So both RBIs came without a hit, but it was Gennaro Litera that had multiple hits, and he was the big bat for the Whiting roll-offs that night. And R.J. Kissick took the loss, pitched 5 innings, only gave up 3 earned runs on 5 hits, struck out 5. So he actually gave up less hits and struck out more than his opposing pitcher, but still unable to get the win because of the late inning heroics by Creekside's offense. Once they got into Whiting's bullpen, they really did some damage. Scotty, I know you watch a lot of baseball. Sometimes you just have to keep it close until you can get a dominant starter out of the game.
Yeah, and whatever you have to do that to get that dominant starter out of the game. Usually, it's just making them work, not taking all the good pitches, but being selective and being smart at the plate. They say sometimes the best pitcher you're gonna see is an at bat, and an at bat is the first one, but it's also good to work the count, especially when you're facing a really dominant pitcher, because a lot of times pens, they could be erratic. Any bullpen day to day, it's nothing's really a given. It's starters are more of a sure thing usually. So anytime you could get into that pen, that bodes really well for you.
Scotty, how many times have you been watching baseball? Whether it be you're watching your Guardians or maybe another team you're rooting for, and man, you're kind of deflated because you're watching this other opposing team's starter just carve you guys up, and you finally get them out of the game, and it's like this sense of relief, like, oh, at least we have another arm that we can try to adjust to, and we don't have to keep getting beat up by this one starter.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny you say that, Anthony, because I went to the Guardians game last night, and that was the case after the first inning. Their starter really settled in. Then the Guardians made a push late after they were facing a deficit off of the Sox bullpen arms, but it was just too little, too late for my guards. Unfortunately, once again.
That's okay. We lost too, Scotty. Shocker there. I think we're like 18-50 or something like that. It's brutal.
Still better than the A's, I think.
Oh yeah, that's always my rally cry. We're better than the A's. Let's see. We have a comment. Is this spam or not? No, it's Radar tuned into us. Wow, Radar doesn't usually pop in Running Point, but I like it. I like it. Let's see what he says. Scotty and Anthony. I'm gonna pull it up after I read it. You gents have some thoughts on the PGA Tour Live Golf merger, and Radar says it's more like the NFL, AFL, NBA, ABA mergers an era ago. Let's wait and see in 5 years. Radar, the only thing I'll say about that is I don't think those mergers were as contentious, or there wasn't as much bad blood between those two leagues when they came together. So and that's one thing, there's a lot of angry people out there that this is happening, especially when you look at what the PGA stance was before. It kind of seemed like a sellout to some people, but I'm not enough in the golf world to have a solid opinion on it, to be honest. So we'll leave it at that. We'll go back to the rest of Class B baseball and recap the other scores. We have two more to get to from last night, the late games. And the first one we're going to move on to is Eagleware and Dura Edge. Eagleware needing to win pretty bad after a tough first week, and they got one 11-6. Big win for Eagleware, and they scored they scored 5 in the sixth, 3 in the fifth, 2 in the fourth. So a late push by Eagleware after just scoring 1 in the first 3 innings. Scotty, they were down 6-1 after 3, and then come back to cruise 11-6 with 10 unanswered runs.
Yeah,
Big day.
you don't see that every day.
No. 3
yeah.
RBI day from David Murphy. That's a cool name. Isn't that the Mets guy that had a big postseason in 2015? Or was that Daniel Murphy? It's Daniel, right? Not
I
David?
think it was Daniel, yeah.
Okay, well, it's close. 3 RBIs for him. He went 1 for 3 with a run scored. Pair of RBIs from A.J. Yost, 1 for 3 with 3 runs scored. Also drew a walk. 2 RBI day from Braden Devine. That's a great name. 2 for 3. 2 RBI for him. And then a 2 for 3 day from Cole Gamerfelder. 1 RBI on his day as well. Pitching wise, Dominic Cusatrone gets the win. He had the 2 innings in relief, got the win, gave up no earned runs, just 1 hit, 3 strikeouts. But then it was Braden Devine that actually got the start. Not a bad performance, giving up 5 earned runs on 4 hits, striking out 3 for him. You look at Dura Edge, they had a good start, couldn't maintain it. Their hits for the day, multiple hits from Nathan McGanahan. He went 2 for 3. Another big day from Logan Cipher, 2 for 3 with an RBI and a run scored. Also an RBI with 2 runs scored from Logan Lyons. He went 1 for 2 with a walk. And then let's see, you have RBI as well from Nate Palucci, 1 for 3 with a run scored, and then 1 for 2 with a run scored from Ethan Adams as well. Down here in the pitching, it was going to be Ryan Knifer that got the loss, 5 and a third innings pitch. He gave up just 5 earned runs, 8 runs total, so 3 of those runs unearned. Struck out more than he walked with 4 strikeouts, just 2 walks, but did give up 10 hits. So a big day for Eagleware. They scored 10 unanswered runs and come away with the 11-6 win over Dura Edge. Last but not least, it is the Astro Falcons that got into the nightcap with Nightline on scene 1, and the Astro Falcons were as dominant as ever. 12-2, they get the win here. 7-run 5th inning, the big difference maker for the Falcons. And the big day came from Will Petty going 2 for 3 with 4 RBIs. That's the biggest total of the night for RBIs. We also got a pair of RBIs from Dawson Wallace going 1 for 4 as well. As an RBI from Hayden Warmuth, 1 for 3 with a run scored. Multiple hits from nobody else except Will Petty. Everyone else just scattering across hits. Only what looks like 2 people in the lineup didn't get a hit that night. Pitching wise, dominant as well. Andrew Corfield went 3 2/3, gave up just 1 earned run on 2 hits, struck out 1, walked 1, and then Joe Ballig got 1 1/3 innings pitched as well, gave up an earned run and a hit, struck out 2, and they did it in 67 total pitches. That's impressive as well. So a big win for Astro Falcons, dominating fashion like we see from them so many times, and they win by the final score of 12-2.
Yeah,
After all, you go ahead, Scotty.
I was just gonna ask you question, Anthony. Obviously, the easy answer is talent, but other than just pure talent, what do you think has made the Astro Falcons such a juggernaut?
I think like every great program, it starts at the top, and the coaches that they put in the places they do. Um, they just know how to go and breed a winning culture. And these teams aren't exactly the same every year. The kids are moving up a division, they're bringing in new kids. There's a lot of turnover in these teams in Class B baseball, but the culture and the kind of honor that they feel putting on the Astros jersey doesn't go away. And I think one of the big things is you got to make the team, right? This isn't like, well, I know there are cuts in high school, but it's a little bit different because you feel like they picked you to be an Astro Falcon. It's almost like it's like a little getting your feet wet into the college experience where colleges pick you to wear their jersey. You have to try out, you have to make the team to get in the Astro Falcons, organization, just like every team in Class B baseball. So you feel honored when a team that has been successful as the Astro Falcons lets you put on their jersey, and you don't want to let them down. So I think it really brings out the best in a lot of athletes that sign up for it. Let's look on the 16U standings updated after last night's games. Still Creekside and Astro Falcons fighting for the first spot, 7-2 both of them are. Avalanche got the win to separate themselves in third from Whiting. Now they're 6-3. While Whiting and Prospects one game back of them at 5-4. Athletics sitting at 4-5. So are Dura Edge. Nightline with 3-6. Ballistic with 2-7. Eagleware got their second win of the year last night with that 10 unanswered run rally, and they're now 2-7 as well. So those are a look at the standings from 16U after last night. And before we get off Class B, we're going to look into the schedule for tonight. 18U back in action tonight, and the game schedule looks like this. At 5:30 on Scene 3, it's going to be Dura Edge and Creekside Fitness. On Scene 1 at 6 o'clock, it's Athletics versus Ballistic. Eagleware takes on Prospects on Scene 3 at 8 o'clock. Avalanche will take on Whiting Roll-Offs and Scene 2 at 8:15. And the nightcap are the Astro Falcons taking on Nightline for Class B action. A quick look at the standings to get you prepared for tonight and get you to see what teams win, what teams need to gain some ground. Whiting is sitting in second place, chasing the undefeated Astro Falcons, 8-0, 6-2, 6-2. Ballistic right there with Whiting. We see Athletics 5-3, Nightline 4-4, Avalanche 3-5, Creekside 3-5, Prospects 2-6, Dura Edge 2-6, and then Eagleware is 1-7.
Yeah, it's once again we see the Astros at the top. We were just talking about what it's like putting that jersey on, but very competitive way down there early on in the season. Whiting and other teams are not far behind. They're on their heels.
So that is your Class B recap from last night. Once again, 18U in action tonight. Let me get you the announcers that will be down at Scene for our coverage on the night real quick before we take a break and get out of here. Let's see. Tonight is going to be Eric Hughes on Scene 3. We'll have Matt Marr on Scene 2, and then Cooper Chavone will be on Scene 1. So those are going to be your announcers down at Scene tonight. Make sure to tune in to ysnlive.com/live and check out those games from Scene Park from those guys who are doing a wonderful job covering Class B baseball all summer long. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to see what Scotty has on his mind. He's always bringing great stuff to the party, and we'll see what he brought today for us to talk about on Running Point, brought to you as always by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Back in a minute.
21 News delivers the news as it happens. using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
As fine as the eye can see, the finest hardwoods from the finest trees. Made for your home and within your means, Baird Brothers will help fulfill your dreams. Let life and light come shining through in quiet morns. And heavy traffic, too. Find your easy-to-afford fine hardwood floors and doors and more at BairdBrothers.com.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Welcome back to Running Point on YSNLive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Right above our heads there, you can check them out. They go the extra mile for you. We try to do the same here on this show every single day. We thank Greenwood Chevrolet for their constant support, and not just Running Point, but everything that we're able to do on YSN. We couldn't do it without them and the other wonderful sponsors that we have on this show. Scotty, every week you bring something awesome to talk about. What is on your mind on this beautiful Wednesday?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on a few things. The first is, staying local and on the high school level, and then I wanted to get your thoughts on some national, pro NFL rumblings and how they tie into your Chiefs. But first, staying local, I just wanted your thoughts on what happened with. I haven't got to talk to you since Austintown Fish brought the state title home. So I wanted to get your thoughts on a little bit about that. What most impressed you about Austintown Fitch this season? What most impress you about their run? And then also going forward for not just Austintown Fitch, but some other programs that have great years and fell a little bit short, but still had terrific years. What do you think the landscape of the game will be going forward, not just for Austintown Fitch, but for other programs that came up just short as well?
Scotty, well, let's just answer the Austintown Fitch question on what I was so impressed with this year. And obviously, there's multiple things I was impressed with. I was impressed with some of the freshmen that came into a program that had a lot of success last year and never felt phased or intimidated by the standard that had been set by the players that left, because they lost a couple of good seniors last year, and there were players that were either freshmen or underclassmen that stepped into a new role right into that spot, and they didn't really miss a beat, and that's impressive when you're coming into a program that is historically successful and you're a freshman. You're kind of looked at like you're going to continue that standard, and to not miss a beat. That was impressive to see their young players, especially the freshmen and the inexperienced ones coming into this year, shine so bright. Sydney Watts, like I will sing that girl's praise until the cows come home. She's a once in a generation pitcher. Once in a generation pitcher. You can't argue it. She clocked at 70 in the state title. In the state semifinal game, 70 miles an hour, which 70 miles an hour from 45 feet away, Scotty, is pretty much your 100-mile-an-hour fastball in baseball. It's elite of the elite. There are not too many pitchers that can do it. Now, I know she wasn't consistently 70. She peaked at 70. But when you peak at 70, you're not too far off from getting yourself consistently in the 70-mile-an-hour range. So with 2 more years left of her high school career, I wouldn't be shocked if by senior season she's in the 70s pretty consistently and maybe peaking at 72, 73. Another thing I was really impressed with, Scotty, is they blocked out the noise. Like, that was one of the things they talked about after losing in the regional finals the year before, blocking out the outside noise that they hear. Would they be able to do that? Would they be able to not really pay attention to other stuff? And they never once did. Like, they were just eyes right ahead, put their blinders on. They have their own goals, their own expectations, and they stayed focused on that.
Yeah, that is really impressive, and we talk a lot on this show about it. Just seems like, and I don't know if part of it is because of a platform like this. I would like to think so, but me and you have talked a lot about how these high schoolers definitely mature beyond their years, and we've done so many great interviews together already in our time on Running Point, and I've had just so much fun with it, and I'm kind of blown away by the uh, chain reaction like one player's success seems to have on the rest of the team. It's like to use a baseball as an example. It's like when a starter goes out there, and this could be for baseball or softball, but when a starter goes out there and is just dominant like that, no one else, they don't want to look bad. They don't want to be the one that's being, shown up, giving up the runs. So it just makes everyone else better. It's like, the old saying, competition brings out the best in everybody, but the elite athletes really push other athletes, especially as time goes on. They're underclassmen. I'm just really impressed with Fitch specifically, and how the Sydney Watts effect, the domino effect she's had on Fitch, because I think the rest of that roster, they just she kind of has led the way, and they feed off her. And as you said, Anthony, throwing 70 miles an hour, and you said from 45 feet. Even if you're getting in the high 60s, that's high 90s equivalent to baseball. So even if it's not consistently 70, it's close. And for her moving forward, the sky's the limit. Like, she could start throwing well over the equivalent of 100 miles an hour soon. She could get well above 70. So but so many things have impressed me about Fitch. That's just why I wanted to get your thoughts. But what
Well, I
do you?
like that you said competition breeds success, because a lot of people hear that and they think, okay, so you're talking about the schedule they put in front of themselves and the teams they played. That's true. Fitch played a really hard schedule. That's awesome, and that's one of the reasons. But competition breeds success internally too. And there were 9 positions out on the field, but probably 15 players that were trying to get into a position, and 15 talented players that would probably start on a lot of other programs in the area. So when you have competition inside like that, where really your job's never really that safe, like you can always, if you're having a slump or you're not really doing things to their standard, they can just say, hey, we're going to give so and so a chance off the bench, and they can come and they can really shine bright. And all of a sudden, because you spend 2 weeks not putting the effort in, your spot's gone. And I think because of that, you never saw anyone from Fitch have lack of effort or like that weak draw where they feel like they're in a rut. It never happened. Now, I'm not saying they went out there and they played perfect every game. That's not Coach Ward's expectation. Coach Ward's expectation is perfect effort every game, not perfection every game, but perfect effort. And that's one of the things that I think Fitch always did, because they knew there were people waiting in the shadows if they didn't.
Their spot wasn't guaranteed. They were in a pressure cooker, you could say. So it really, and I think there's times like when you know the pressure's on, like even when I do the show with you, Anthony, and it's just us talking, like to me, most of the time, because we've been at this together for a long
Over a
time
year.
now. Like, yeah, I'm starting to feel really comfortable, with you one on one. But when we have special guests on and interviews, and it's just kind of like that, you know, not necessarily that I don't feel pressure just talking with you, but you've also been a great friend that I bonded well before we started the show together for years. So it's just easy with you. But like when we have a special guest on, like somebody like Brian Tonar or any other athlete we have on, it's like, man, now I got to step my game up and come up with some really good questions. So
And you always do, Scotty. You always do. One of the other things to your second question that makes me so excited about softball in the area is you look at it and it's like, man, a lot of this talent is coming back. A lot of these players that you're going to eventually see on our postseason awards and see in our All-Star game in the summer, there's a lot of players coming back next year. A lot of them are going to be juniors or sophomores or even freshmen this year. So there's a lot of young talent. There's a lot of talent coming back. You look at the pitching in the area. Gabby Gratishar is coming back for 2 more years. Sydney Watts has come back for 2 more years. Melena Toth will be there for a senior. Those are big 3 pitchers to come back for another year in the area. And then, of course, Isabella O'Brien, who we talked about a lot for McDonald's, she's coming back. Um, you know, list a lot of pitchers that are coming back for more. Had such successful seasons, but they're not done yet, which that excites me.
what do you think is gonna be the biggest key for opposing offenses? I mean, they're gonna be going up against, like you said, we have so much talent in the area coming back now. What do you like? We talked about certain teams and their approaches before. And we talked about how it's good to try to get in the pen, work the count. But do you still believe that there's definitely a lot of times too when you face a Sydney Watts or another great pitcher, one of the other pitchers you mentioned, that sometimes you want to try to get after that first pitch that looks good?
Absolutely. They're all those pitchers that I just mentioned. They all want to get ahead on you. They all want to get 0-1. So they're either going to throw a pitch that they are pretty confident they're going to swing and miss at, or they're going to throw inside the zone. Either way, you don't want to get behind the bat. You want to set the tone. You want to either put a ball in play or foul a ball off, show that you can hit the pitch, or take one for a ball. So that's, setting your tone in the first pitch is super, super important against these high-level pitchers. I think one of the keys for these hitters, and I think some teams did pretty well locally this year, you can't be intimidated. I think some teams lose against those pitchers before they begin because they go into the game thinking, "Oh my gosh, it's Sydney Watts. Oh my gosh, it's Gabby Gratishar. She's so good," and then you psych yourself out. You have to go up like it's every other pitcher that you see. Yes, the velocity is higher, but the location is exactly the same of every other pitcher you're trying to go up against. So you just have to kind of not be intimidated, go up with a game plan like you would against any other pitcher, and try your best to execute it. The other thing I have to say, and I think some teams did a good job of this year too, you're going to strike out. You're playing a really, really good pitcher. You're going to strike out. Like, it's just, they're going to get them. You're not going to go a game against any Watch with no strikeouts. It's just not going to happen. So don't let that dictate the rest of your game as an offense. So just like if you're playing a really good basketball player, they're going to get their points. Like, it's just they're that good. You're not going to shut them down. They're going to score. You can't let it deflate you, and you can't let them score so much that they're blowing you out. So I think those are some of the first keys, and then of course you get into the X's and O's, and each pitcher has their own scouting report and their own game plan that you need to prepare for. But to start, like, the first step is don't be intimidated and be aggressive. And if you do those two things first, and then worry about the scouting and the game plan of each pitcher, I think you'd be at least have a chance.
So for you, it's a lot about that containment too. Like these players are gonna shine, but don't let them just kind of completely dominate. Is what you're
And
saying.
one of the things I loved about Fitch that I wish more teams would get a grasp of is Fitch celebrates every little victory that they get. If it's a walk, they celebrate. If it's a hit by pitch, they celebrate. If someone intentionally walks somebody, they're fired up about it because they know, hey, this girl's scared of you. They're firing up everything. It's not just the home runs or the big RBI doubles that gets everybody in that dugout up. It is every little piece of success that they get, they're fired up about. They want that. And I wish more teams would get that fire where they are celebrating every single positive that happens in a game. Scotty, you watched Oklahoma during the World Series this weekend and the championship in the next 3 days. One of the things that makes Oklahoma so good at softball, and actually the best team in the country, they celebrate everything positive that goes into a game. They celebrate. If you walk them, the girl is literally jumping up and down the baseline like she hit a home run. And they don't care that it looks silly. They don't care that they say that people are saying, "Why are you celebrating? You just walked. You didn't do anything great." They don't care because they are celebrating every small victory in that game. It's one of the things that makes them great. It's how they're trained. And when you do that, you're always gassing up and you're always good. And I think Fitch does that really well too. Fitch reminds me a lot of Oklahoma in the way they play the game. So I wish more high school teams would buy into that mindset.
It's like, and you always have that adrenaline going because of it. It's like pretty much mainlining adrenaline.
Like, I'm not kidding, Scotty. In their last game, I saw Oklahoma. This girl for Oklahoma walked. Now it was a big situation, but she walked, and she was running up and down the baseline, jumping as if she just cranked a walk-off home run. But she knew that walk sets up the rest of her offense, and they celebrated it like it was as if it was a home run. And it's just one of those things that I wish we could see more. I love it.
I totally get that because sometimes even on the high school level, everybody everybody wants to they're focused on being their best every day, and you want to win,
Right.
but sometimes I think like the part about sports being fun and just having it as an escape from some troubles that could be going on in your life. I think sometimes that gets you teams get so caught up in, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, that they kind of almost forget about just exhaling and having fun with it.
Yep, you hit the nail on the head, Scotty. Hit the nail on the head. What else did you want to bring up, Scotty? I know you have other stuff on your mind.
Yeah, I do. So I wanted to bring up a little bit. Um, there's been some rumblings now for the last I'd say maybe week and a half, going on 2 weeks now in the NFL world. There's been a lot of rumblings about DeAndre Hopkins, and one of the teams mentioned um, in the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstakes has been not only my Brownies but your Kansas City Chiefs as well.
I think every team is going after D Hop. Let's just be honest. Like every team would love to have a receiver like that.
Uh, because obviously the Chiefs are the cream of the crop, and you know how I feel about Pat Mahomes. Like I made the case, for him being a Hall of Famer. Like it was a tough sell, but I made the case for him being a Hall of Famer after one Super Bowl and an MVP, and then let alone getting that other one now, and still only being 27. So you know how I feel about your boy Pat Mahomes. As optimistic as I like to be about my Browns, the Chiefs, they're just always scary because if they have Mahomes out there, they're always gonna have a chance. But with that being said, there has been teams that have pushed them a little bit. None more so than Cincinnati. But if the Chiefs did acquire somebody like D Hop, Anthony, I'm not saying he's as good as Cheetah Tyreek Hill, but if they did acquire D Hop, um, do you think it takes them to another level and really puts like other teams in that much more of a bind, and other teams are really looking up at the Chiefs now saying, like, I don't know what we could do with these guys?
You know, I admit, like initially when I know where you're going with this, I want to say, yeah, man, of course, a new weapon like that would definitely bring the Chiefs to a higher level. And of course, it would. I mean, even anytime you add another weapon to any team, whether it be a team with Patrick Mahomes or a team with Josh Allen or insert quarterback there, Joe Burrow, anytime you give him another weapon that's really, really at that level, it's going to raise the level of your team. That's just like it's math. But one of the things I like that you brought up actually that kind of wired in my mind for the last couple of minutes while you were talking was that when we had Tyreek Hill, who everyone thought was one of the best wide receivers in the league at that point, we lost to the Bengals. They were able to shut down Tyreek Hill, really. So it's like, does it really change that much at the Bengals? And then we beat the Bengals without Tyreek Hill, and we lost to them with Tyreek Hill. It makes me wonder, like, is there something in Patrick Mahomes' chemistry where he doesn't want that alpha dog wide receiver out there that's outside of Travis Kelce? Would he be better with that personality? Would it mesh in the locker room? Did he like the guys that he had this year a little? Did he trust them a little bit more? I know they weren't known commodity names. I mean, he had in the Super Bowl, he had Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney as his two receivers. I mean, a lot of people outside of Chiefs fans don't know who those two are. And they both scored touchdowns in the Super Bowl. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, you want a weapon like that. I don't think Patrick Mahomes would ever scoff at a weapon like that at all. And it would obviously take the Chiefs up to the next level. But, I can't deny that when we had a elite receiver outside of Travis Kelce, we lost to Cincinnati. And when we didn't have one, we won it. I don't know if that's obviously not the only factor or variable in those two games, but you got to wonder how much that played a role in it.
So you think it could be a case of kind of quantity over quality and not
Right. I mean,
necessarily.
I think Patrick Mahomes, like, I think right now when when I watched him last year, especially in the playoffs, I think he really, really trusts the receivers that he has right now. They're not big names. They're not superstar receivers. But for whatever reason, maybe it was because he took them down to Texas for like 3 weeks before the OTAs last year and really, dove into the playbook with them and dove into a relationship with those guys to bond. But for whatever reason, it really felt like, especially down the stretch, he built a really good, strong bond with Kadarius Tony, Sky Moore, MVS, and then of course Travis Kelsey. And I think for whatever reason, McCole Hardman was left out of that trust because he felt like he was alienated all year, and he kind of pushed away. And now obviously he's not with the team anymore. So I think Mahomes really trusts those guys. I think he trusted Juju as well, but we all knew that Juju was here for 1 year and then packing his bags. He wanted to use the Chiefs as kind of a place to prove to people that he could still be good. And obviously he went, where did he, even forget where Juju went.
Juju. I'm trying to remember too.
I know McCole Hardman went to the Jets because we call him the Jets, so the Jet went to the Jets, and that's how I remember that. But I don't remember where Juju went, to be honest with you. Oh well.
Yeah.
Point is, he's not in Kansas City anymore, and that wasn't a surprise at all. One of the reasons why I did not get his jersey because I knew he was going to be probably a one and done. So, I think right now Patrick Mahomes really trusts the receivers that he has. Plus, he has a really good running back out of the backfield that catches a lot of touchdowns for us in the passing game, and McKinnon, who we re-signed. So I think Mahomes is comfortable right now. I'm not saying he would turn down a big weapon, and I'm not saying that he wouldn't be happy to have D-Hop, but I don't think he's probably not someone that's like really pushing hard to get it. If I was to guess.
Okay. I also wanted to know. I talked about making the case after Pat Mahomes won his first one and how it was kind of a tough case to build. But now that he's won two, and you got a guy like Ben Roethlisberger who's gonna be in the Hall of Fame. You got a guy that I think a lot of people could get in Eli Manning. That didn't have was never considered the best player on his team or even one of the best quarterbacks, but won to. So would you now agree that no matter what happens, if Pat Mahomes, if he doesn't play another down, that he is already a Hall of Famer? And then the second part of that, I want to know the last couple years now in the AFC, the top three contenders have been your Chiefs, Cincinnati, and the Buffalo Bills. If there was one other team you think could get into that conversation in the AFC, who do you think it is?
All right, that's a lot of digest. So,
Yeah, I'm
Scotty's
sorry.
always put me in the position to make me sound like a homer. Like, oh yeah, let's talk about Patrick Mahomes. Let's make the Chiefs guy talk about Patrick Mahomes. One of the things that I imagine, I'm not huge on Hall of Fame history, so I don't know if I can back up what I'm saying with fact. But I don't know how many guys who have played 5 years, even if they had really good starts in their 5 year career, for whatever reason, maybe they just gassed out or maybe they retired early. I don't know how many guys that have played 5 years have really gotten to the Hall of Fame. Like, I'm thinking the one that comes to mind is Bo Jackson, right? Because everyone thought, man, he's got a great football future ahead of him. He was really good. Everyone kind of knows that he was going to be a really good running back, but he got hurt, right? He got hurt before he could reach all that potential. And he's not in the Hall of Fame for football yet. And he's not in the Hall of Fame for baseball either, if I'm not mistaken. I could
I
be
don't
wrong.
think he
But like I
is.
said, I'm not big on Hall of Fame history and who's in and who's not in. But I think the thing that Patrick Mahomes needs, to be honest, he's got all the numbers, of course, and he's got the career accolades to do it. But I think the Hall of Fame really does put a emphasis on longevity. Like, did you last in this league? I think they want that. I think they want to see it. So if Patrick Mahomes, for whatever reason, God hope not, he doesn't play another down, it would have to be like the career-ending injury that we saw from Alex Smith or Joe Theismann. God, no one wants to see that from anybody. But if for some godforsaken reason like that were to happen, I don't like. They'd probably put him in because like the outrage if he wasn't would be astronomical. Because if someone gets hurt like that and they're so potential and you see like what they could do, I feel like they definitely have the public opinion on their side to be in the Hall of Fame. But at the other end, it's like we know that the Hall of Fame loves longevity. They love you to have a long career in the NFL to prove that not only can you be good for 3, 4, 5 years, you can be good for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and you can consistently hold that. And I don't think that means that Patrick Mahomes has to go and win 4 more Super Bowls in the next 10 years to be in the Hall of Fame. I think he just has to sustain a career and not fall off a cliff. I think if he does that's my argument. If Patrick Mahomes right now, from now on, has not a barely above average the rest of his career, like gets to the playoffs, wins a couple more playoff games, maybe gets into one more Super Bowl. If he did that and then he had to start the first 5 years that he has now, probably a Hall of Famer. As long as he has, 7 more years in the league, probably a Hall of Famer based on what he's done already. But I think longevity is one thing that they're going to look for and say, we want him to play 5 more years or 6 more years or whatever that number may be. So that's my take on that, I think. And real quick, as far as the other teams that I think might be in the AFC that probably could find a way to be a contender, I think the Dolphins can. I think the Dolphins absolutely can. I know they're in the same division as the Bills, and they're going to be fighting with each other. But I really like what the Dolphins have. They have a lot of weapons on offense. Tua is going to be healthy, hopefully. They have a good defensive line, which is always what you need to compete with a Patrick Mahomes or a Joe Burrow. You're going to need to put pressure on them. We saw that when when both teams beat each other. I think one of the main differences was like when Cincinnati was able to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes, they won that game. When the Chiefs were able to put pressure on Joe Burrow, they won the game. So defensive line plays a big factor, and I think the Dolphins have a pretty good defensive line. So I think the Dolphins would be a team that I would say could probably get in that conversation as a team that could, get in that 4-team jockey position with the Bills, Bengals, and Chiefs.
Interesting. I really like the Dolphins too. When Tua is on the field, and hopefully he has all this, these nasty.
The Eagles scare me. I know that's the NFC, but the Eagles are like they load up even more. I mean, Jalen Hurts is a monster. The Eagles are. I think the Eagles might be, eyeing a repeat NFC Championship season.
Well, that real quick, I know you say I always put you in a position to talk up your boy, but that's another reason. Both Super Bowls, I believe in both they faced double-digit deficits.
That's what, like, if you're gonna pick a knock on Patrick Mahomes, one of the knocks is like he hasn't played a consistently good Super Bowl. Like that first Super Bowl, he wasn't playing well for the first 3 quarters. And then this Super Bowl, I know he was hurt, but he still didn't have a great first half. So you could say, if you're a Patrick Mahomes hater out there, that he hasn't played a consistently good Super Bowl yet, despite being Super Bowl MVP twice, I guess.
All right, good. Well, thank you, Anthony. I know we're just about out of time.
Just hit the hour, Scotty.
Yeah, that was great stuff on the show today. Love talking all the local ball in the 16U, 18U, and softball, and then picking your brain a little bit on the off season and fun hypotheticals. So, thank you, Anthony.
Scotty, thank you so much for joining us like you do every week. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today to Running Point. As always, it's brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. I'll be back tomorrow from 1 to 2, like every day, and we'll see you then. Enjoy Class B baseball tonight on ysnlive.com.